Hey guys, this is Eric Weingartner with Weingartner Racing. Today's video is about a big block Ford that got dynoed. We did this one several weeks ago and I've just been really behind about putting out this video. Mostly because it takes too long to edit and I got other stuff to do. But anyway, here's what it is. It's a really simple combination. So we got this guy here. His name is Paul Barlow. He's a good guy. He's got a business down there in McAllister. He does auto mechanic work, so visit him. I know when you're looking at this picture, you're thinking, is that his girl? Yeah. And I know your next thing is how? Trust me, we have all wondered that. But anyway, the car in the background that you see there, that's actually the engine that's in this video. It's in there now. So what he did was he had got this on a trade or whatnot, and he had it built. So Nick Lucido from Lucido's Machine Shop here in Tulsa, they put it together. But what this is, it's a stock block, big block Ford, but it's got forged maul pistons. It's got forged Eagle rods, forged Eagle crank. And I don't remember the exact compression ratio. I think it's something like 10.5 or so. So not super high. After all, this is just a play toy. It really wasn't meant to be a drag car thing at all, as you can kind of tell from the rest of the specs. The camshaft was a hydraulic roller camshaft, a custom one that he had ground, and the duration on it's really small when you think about how big this engine is. But the duration was 253 on intake and 260 on exhaust. Only a 612 lift on both intake and exhaust, 112 lobe separation. This is a hydraulic roller. He got some Johnson hydraulic roller lifters to use for this. Took him a while to get that. But the engine itself, it's big. So you have 4.390 bore and a 4.30 stroke, so it's about 520 cubic inches. So this is a big engine. I shouldn't say big. I think it's big when you look at the standards. So it's just what he had, but the one thing he didn't have was cylinder heads. So this is where things get interesting. I should preface it by saying this. I have known Paul for years. Probably a decade at this point, I think, Paul. Paul, by the way, is also the owner of he's in the small block Chevy Cam Challenge. He's Team Tard. But anyway, I've known him for years. And if I didn't know him, I probably would not be doing this. So the heads that are on this engine, he had bought whenever there was like a Black Friday sale at Speedmaster, aka Pro Comp, which for all those that are watching this, the reason why I preface in this, I say this, I will not work on Pro Comp heads or Speedmaster, or if they ever change their name again, I do not work on their heads because I don't build. Because I don't care if you put good parts in them. It feels like to me you can put good parts in it if you want. Their seats will chip and fail. Back when I first got started, like many years ago, I was like, I'll do anything, and worked on those, and the seats would chip out. The top of the ear that holds down the rocker stud, in other words, what you're bolting your rocker stud into, they would break off. I mean, there's just so many problems. And I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Because inevitably, no matter how much you tell them, they still somehow, because Pro Comp or Speedmaster won't answer their phone, won't return their stuff. But somehow, since I dealt with it, they felt the need to, somehow I need to be responsible for this horrible product. And so I was like, I'm not doing this ever again. So I don't work on them at all. And I don't build stuff to blow up. But Paul, he found these CNC Pro Comp big block Ford heads for really cheap. I think he paid like $654 or something. Super cheap. And if it wasn't Paul, I'd turn the job down, if I'm being honest. So he found them really cheap, and they were CNC ported. And if you go back in time, you'll see this video that I actually did on them, because I actually have the flow plate for that, to flow the big block Ford heads. And yes, I can work on big block Ford heads, aluminum, but I just, right now I'm so busy with the other stuff, it's hard to just do that. Because someone asked me to port some A460s, I ain't got time. But anyway, he got those heads, and he said, hey, can you take a look at them, and could you put them together? Because he bought them bare, obviously. So I looked at them, and I flowed them stock, and this is where your flow calculations go completely out the window. I could go ahead and tell you that. So people have this magic formula that they have for CFM per horsepower. That's absolute garbage. I've said that forever. But anyway, he had me flow them, and then he said, just go ahead and redo the valve job, make sure it seals. And then I blended that, and actually it picked up quite a bit. So just to looking at the flow sheet here, we have a column for stock. The stock flow, they only flowed 321 CFM on the intake side. Remember, they're full CNC ported. At 400, they went 268. So not great, right? And the exhaust side's only 199. Remember, this is a, that's without exhaust pipe, but this is a 520 cubic inch engine. And these are CNC ported exhaust ports to flow that low. I mean, there are small block Chevy heads, they're feeding 350 cubic inches to have an exhaust port that moves more air. It's pretty bad. Anyway, just redoing the valve job and blending it in. I did nothing else, which is also in another video that I'm hopefully showing a clip for now. It picked up quite a bit, not peak flow, but the others. The biggest thing, and I've said this forever, so we talk about flow benches, you know, and maybe you saw Steve and I go back, and, well, not really go back and forth, but he's talking about flow benches. To me, it's a tool, and one of the more important tools it gives you is the number at 400, because to me, if a head makes power, the 400 number is it. I can almost always tell if a head's actually going to do well. Forget, the peaks are important, but not near as much as that 400 number. So if you gain there, that is your number that's going to tell you if the head's worth anything. But anyway, from the valve job, it went from 268 to 295. Now that 295 number is pretty good, because if you got a big block Chevy head with a canted valve, and most aftermarket ones, you're lucky if you're getting around 290s. You can get to about 300 on a really good one. So that's not really bad flow. That's actually really, really good. However, the rest of the numbers just aren't. So you're looking, the rest are like 320s and it peaks at 330. It's really, really not great. The exhaust side picked up some too. So now at 400, it goes 172, which is still pretty bad, and the peak's only 212. It's still horrible, but it's pro comp, right? The intake manifold, and this is one of the things that did have to be modified considerably. He bought an Edelbrock, I think it's a Victor Jr. It's a single plane. And you're like, why would he put a single plane on this thing? He doesn't turn a whole lot of RPMs. Why? You'll see it doesn't matter. But the thing was, I think it's related to the pro comp heads in general. They'd milled either too much off the face or didn't mill enough off the face. I'd have to go back in my notes and look. But the intake did not line up at all on the heads. So in other words, when you put it on, the intake opening, so the intake manifold's opening would see probably a 1/4 inch of the cylinder head above the port. So the one thing that did get modified is I had to chunk it up in the mill, and I milled off 90 thousandths on each side just to drop the manifold down on so that it would line up better with the intake ports on the head. And then it was relatively close. And that's the intake. Now we used a 2-inch tapered 4-hole spacer from Unleashed Performance. And then he had a Holley Dominator 950 carburetor. So this isn't a 1050, it's 950, because this is his toy, right? And then we dynoed it. So we went to Dunsworth Machine and dynoed again. So the dyno that we used all the time. And I've actually shared one of the tests with it where the air hat was kicked off, just to kind of show you it actually helped power. By the way, all the dyno sheets that you're seeing here, and even probably this flow sheet, I'm going to put in the link for you channel members. It'll already be in there. So if you click in there, hopefully you'll see it. If I don't do it now, this morning, I'm going to do it this evening. But anyway, so the testing was really, really pretty simple as far as testing goes. We just want to see what kind of power it makes. We're looking to conquer the world. But when you look at the power numbers, the first thing we did was timing, of course, because the jetting was actually relatively close. I think we made 4 jet changes, or not 4 total jet changes, but changes the jet size 4. We only changed jets once. But we went down, I think, 4 sizes to get it better. And then, by the way, the jetting, negligible power gain. The only other thing we played with was timing. And I will say this, and I don't know if it's because of the big block Ford. Unlike the big block Chevy, big block Chevys have this big 119cc chamber, right? These ones are much smaller. I think they're like 100 cc's or thereabouts. So they're much smaller. So they're more efficient with the burn. But they are way more sensitive to timing. Just to give you an idea, we were like 36. Well, let's try 33. Lost a ton, like a bunch. And then we went to 38, and then it barely picked up. So really the 36 is more the sweet spot. Here's its power numbers, and you could tell this thing is just a powerhouse. At 4,100 RPMs, it's 655 foot-pounds of torque. It's insane. It makes 74 horsepower at 6,500 RPM. Quite frankly, I'm shocked that it even peaked that late with the small cam and these smaller heads for the size of cubic inch. But man, that's a lot of torque down low and still really good power. So this is insane. Just to give you an idea, I looked up how much power a Duramax diesel made in 2003. In 2003, they made 300 horsepower and only 554 foot-pounds of torque. This is making more torque than that, and this is with a single plane. So maybe with a dual plane, you would have gained more torque down low, but how much do you need? This is 100 foot-pounds more than the diesels when they came out. But that's even part of it. We then put on the bigger headers, the Super Comp, because these were like 1 3/4 headers that Dunbar just happened to have. By the way, ignore this airfield ratio, this is calculated. The actual O2 sensor is like 12.5, 12.6, so you can ignore that one, that's calculated. But we put on the Super Comp headers, and they're 2.25. Now check this out. This is another reason why the horsepower per CFM numbers are total garbage, because just changing headers, and we got this. It did drop some torque down low, so now we're at 632 foot-pounds at 4,200 RPM. It's about 30 foot-pounds of torque less with the bigger headers at 4,000, but it made it up by 4,500. But check out this, 705 horsepower, so it gained almost 30 horsepower, and peak torque still 666 foot-pounds of torque. That's insane. So it's like really, it's got a ton of torque. So if you had like a Ford F-150, a full-size pickup, this would be the ripper. 700 horsepower, 660-something foot-pounds of torque. This thing is going to move and haul. So you could pull a boat with this thing and be happy and still have 700 horsepower on top of it. I mean, this would pull better than the diesel, the 2003 Duramax diesel. This thing is just, and it would be so much faster too. Just a great engine, good combination. Happened by luck. So anyway, there's that. Let's wrap this thing up. So there you have it. A really great engine combination. Would I say it's cheap? Absolutely not, because if anything on the small or big block Ford, is expensive. He got this as a trade and stuff, and I bet you he's probably all in about $8,000, which $8,000 is still $8,000. So it's still a chunk of change, but I would say it's a great deal. Do I worry about the reliability with the Pro Comp heads? It's not like this is his daily. He probably could make this a daily if he wanted to. He does plan to make long cruises with this thing, because it's going in that 3-window coupe, which looks really nice. But yeah, does that 3-window coupe need 666 foot-pounds of torque? Absolutely not. I mean, that's lighter than, I think, even than my drag Camaro. It does not need that much torque. It'll just be a tire fryer, if we're being honest, but fun nonetheless. So just to make sure I was correct, I went up and looked at, so hopefully you're seeing this now, I looked up the specs for the 2003 heavy-duty Duramax diesel from Chevy, because I kind of remember, because when I was in college still, and I remember it was only 300 horsepower, and yeah, it's like 552 foot-pounds of torque. Now I did it at 1,800 RPM, but this had 600 and something foot-pounds of torque at 4,000. We never would pull down that low. That would be ridiculous. But if we were, I'm sure it's still in the 500s, probably around 2,500. So even then, it's really close on the torque at that low of RPM, but way more further on. So it would be great to go in a full-size truck. But fun combination, worked out great. You could throw out those CFM per horsepower calculations, because that did not track. What does track, and that's the reason why these are used as tools, every time a head flows good at 400, they make decent power. They rig pretty good. And this is kind of the example, because in my thought, we should probably be around, 600, 650 horsepower, nowhere near 700. So that's pretty amazing. And the torque is just phenomenal. So all together, a really good combination. Oh, forgot to mention this. One thing he was really proud of, but I don't have any pictures of it, is he actually found, for the rocker setup, Yellow Terra. They're an Australian company. They make rockers. And he's like, these are really trick. I really like them, but I didn't get a picture for this video. But that's what he used for the rocker setup. I have yet to use them, but I know they're really nice. But anyway, just thought I'd throw that in there. No, they're not paying me. No one is paying me for this video, period. So before you get thinking that. So all together, really great combination, good horsepower. Have fun with it. Guys, I know it's a big block Ford, but thanks for watching. And since you made it this far, let me go ahead and tell you what's going to come up this week. Not related to Ford stuff, but maybe you'll find some appreciation for this. I have a brand new set of AFR heads that came in. And I'm doing a video on that because they changed their casting. Also, I finally got the AFR and Forester small block Chevy heads in. You're like, wait a minute, didn't you already do that? These are the new ones. So I'm going to finally be able to flow those and get to see that. And then there's some other things as well that are coming up. But that's it. Sorry I didn't do a Saturday update video. Just got, life gets busy, You got to live your dream. Yesterday I got to see Christopher Titus at the Bricktown Comedy Club here in Tulsa. Huge Titus fan. Yeah, if you watched his show back in the day, you understand it was fantastic. This is the second time I've seen him. About 20 years ago, he was here in Tulsa, and my wife and I got to go watch that, and we got a picture of that. It was fantastic. I think we were still dating at the time. Maybe it's more than 20 years ago. It's really close. But anyway, amazing. His show is excellent. His wife was performing before him. She is hilarious too. So if they come to your area, I highly recommend you go see it. He is a very funny man. She is a very funny woman. They work a crowd well. So especially in the smaller venues, which is kind of what this one was, worked out well. And he is a stand-up dude. I got to shake his hand. He knows car stuff. So anyway, because I talked to him about it, I said, you're probably the only one who will appreciate what I do for a living, because I can't even tell other people because they don't understand. I said, I'm a cylinder head porter, and he knew what that was. You know how rare that is. This entire neighborhood I live in, I could go and tell them what I do and they'd have no idea. So I have to keep telling them, no, if anybody ever asks, I'm like, I do work on race cars, even though I don't really work on race cars, because it's so impossible to explain what you do to normal people, normies. If I really feel sassy, I'll say I'm a YouTube star, but I'm not even that. But it's easier than explaining, well, you see what I do is I take a piece of aluminum that has air that goes through it, and then I grind it to make it a different size and dimension that the engine needs. It moves more air so that engine can make more power. That would bore them to death, and they still wouldn't understand it at all. So, no, instead, I'm a YouTube personality, or I work on race cars. But anyway, that was really, really nice. He's a car guy. He actually said he had the 365 horsepower engine that came out of his Vet. It was the one with the camel hump heads, and that was really, really neat. So I appreciated that. Thank you, pal. He said he's going to swap it to LS, and he said, I could see the disgust in your face. Well, yes! But anyway, yeah. All you truckers out there, keep trucking. Keep doing your thing. Thanks for bringing my stuff. But anyway, guys, remember, I am no Superman. I did race Superboy. He's got a swim meet for college, his very first one, next Saturday. And I'll be there that in Little Rock. And anyway, so I did race Superboy. I don't port cast iron heads. You guys take care.